Thank you for coming, for joining us, those that are here. I've just found out that we're going to have one of our other colleagues up here is not going to be able to join us today, so we're going to go ahead and proceed and start today. Senator Albers, if I could call on you to offer us a word of prayer.
Chairman. Please bow your heads. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this great opportunity to focus on our youth in the state of Georgia. Lord, just ask that you put a hedge of protection around all those in our schools right now, from our teachers and our administrators and our students and parents and all those that are helping out, so we may help educate our children in a good, safe, and loving environment. Please bless this meeting. For all these things, we make our prayers in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I bring to you this morning with our committee, and as we're on, based on Senate Resolution 192, created the study committee on the age of mandatory education, and that's this committee. It's just to take a look at the pros and the cons as we go forward of increasing the age based on Senate Bill 3 that came through my committee this year. It piqued a lot of interest and questions, and that was one of the reasons I decided not to move forward or take any action on it, but hopefully have a study committee so that we could at least start a conversation around that. As many of you know, for 30 years I worked in the criminal side of working with youth, and it always just, that was one of those things that I just saw day in and on a daily basis. Just, you know, the kids that were, I just realized that they were throwing their entire lives away when they made that decision at 16 years old, and then also the statistics prove that, because there's so many of those, you know, the highest percentage of those who quit school at 16 will do some kind of time in either jail or prison. And so, I mean, it's a very high number, and it's something I just thought it was something worth taking a look at. I don't like to think that the state would ever say that we have throwaway kids, and I've always been one of those, and I tell people, as a state juvenile probation officer for 30 years, I felt so many times like I was the guy standing at the edge of the cliff trying to catch all those kids that were falling through the cracks because there was nobody else after me that, you know, trying to save them from going over the edge of that cliff. So it's kind of that's kind of my hope and my mentality in this, that we can have logical and good conversation around this going forward. I think it's very important that we get this right. As I said, that there's no kid to me that's disposable, and every kid should have the same opportunities regardless of, because many of these kids, you know, family backgrounds and demographics come into play, and you'd see, you know, there's so many kids that they struggled from day one. And if we can find some cures to that struggle so that they're not struggling as they transition into the adult world. And as I used to tell my probation kids, you know, literally I would explain to them, I wore a lot of different hats as a juvenile probation officer, and one of those hats was, you know, kind of to be a psychologist and try to get them to understand things that they didn't have the maturity or the years of life's experience to comprehend. But one of those things was, I would tell the kids, I said, you know, there's a lot of people smarter than me that written books 3 inches thick on the topic of adolescent psychology and child psychology. I said, but I can make it simple for you to understand. I said, from 13 to 17, I said, there's literally you're in a transition of life, and you are literally transitioning between two worlds. And that world is a child, every child 12 and under, and I would tell them, I said, you, your mama, me, the judge that puts you on probation, heck, even the governor of our state. Every one of us live in a world where every thought that goes through a child's mind is directed by want. They will say that word 1,000 times a day. That's why they put the candy at the checkout line at the grocery store, so they can get that last minute sale of the little kid sitting in the buggy saying, Mama, I won't, I won't, I won't. And she'll say, here, hush, and give it to them. That transition from the world of want to the world of need to. And so many times, if we're doing with education in that transition, if 16 years old, are we really making the right decision to allow them to just throw away their possibility of having a good future when they're during that transition of life, that they really are making those monumental decisions? So that was a purpose for this. That's the reason we had sponsored Senate Resolution 192 to create this committee. And I just appreciate each of you for being here, for our committee members for being here. And hopefully going forward, we'll have some great conversations. And I'll just go ahead and put this out there too. I plan to, after this meeting, our next meeting will probably be in one of our committee members' districts and talk to the local folks there. And I'd like to do that in a small, medium, and large size district a school district, that we can get the local take on how this would affect them if we were to raise the age from 16 to 17 for mandatory attendance. And so hopefully we can get some good information going forward in the next few weeks and before we get into session next year, that we can have a good idea of what we're doing. Is there anyone here from the superintendent's office?
From Department of Education?
Yes. Yes. Could you come forward, please, and just introduce yourself? And I said I'm kind of wanting to start from ground zero on this. I know we had hearings on this throughout the session, but I'd just like to kind of put everybody back on the same page. So if we rehash old stuff that we rehashed on this bill before, that would be just fine. If you'll introduce yourself.
My name is Carrie Pritchard, and I'm with the Department of Education. I work in District Flexibility and External Affairs.
And what is departments? How do you view this bill? This idea.
We're fine. Honestly, we believe that the funding could be better used in support services all the way around, instead of increasing the age of 17, ensuring that we have enough guidance counselors, and ensuring that we have enough information and services for all of the students, instead of just picking an age and having that. And then you also have to keep in mind, outside of the cost to the state, we're also in a teacher shortage. If we increase the age, what does that mean for the availability of teachers?
And do you have any information on what it would be for the what that cost would be as far as?
I don't. I know I know there's been fiscal notes done in the past, but we can figure that out.
Senator Davenport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you saying that the Department of Education would rather have services than change the age, or you would like both?
We'd be fine with either one. Obviously, our focus, and under Superintendent Woods, the focus really has been support and services.
Mm-hmm.
So any way that we can provide as many supports and services to all students,
Okay.
that would be, if we had to pick one or the other, I would pick the support and services.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that was one of the questions that actually we discussed during the committee was, the bill to have possibly, if we put in the language for those kids that are, in dire need, that, there'd be some kind of wraparound services in place for those kids. So that would be something we'd also be looking at.
Mm-hmm. And we do have amazing programs throughout the state, and also even with, foothills and coastal plains, to help support students that, it's not that they're dropping out because they're in trouble. They're dropping out because they have to get a job to support their families. And, so there's a lot more to it than just dropping out of high school.
Senator Albers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you coming today and speaking to us. I actually sponsored the same bill as Senator Jackson a few times over the years, and I don't know if the department has done this in the past, but I've got some older information, and I'd like to ask your help in this. What we had found out back about probably 6 to 8 years ago is if a child does not, and I'm going to use the word child, does not graduate from high school, the chance of he or she ending up in either the criminal justice system or the need for social services throughout their lifetime is almost guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And yet, if they graduate from high school, that one single lever, it goes down to 7%. So the cost to the state, the local governments, the schools, society, the federal government is actually, we believe, to be about 21 times greater than keeping them in school for the investment of doing that. So I would love to get your help, please, so we can rerun those more current numbers, because I think they're going to vet out that this is most importantly for the child, but secondarily, I think it's an extraordinary return on investment. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? I did have, during the session when we were looking at Senate Bill 3, there was, like I said, we did mention the wraparound services. You know, if you could look in to find, I mean, I know that that's a huge task, I mean, literally to consider, but for those kids, if you could give us some numbers, maybe going forward.
Okay.
And just provide us some data, what we're looking at as far as, what would that cost if we put wraparound services in place for, based on the number of kids that are quitting school at 16 across our state. And just, we'd like to make, because we want to have a real good look at this going forward, before we come to a conclusion. And I think that everybody on this committee seems to have their mind in the right place. It's not we're all committed that we're going to do something, but at the same time, we can't do nothing.
Absolutely. I will say in the last 5 years, the dropout rate has dropped over a percentage point for the whole state, and in every subgroup, it has decreased by more than a percentage point. And I think a lot of that is because of the work that y'all have done in the past few years, whether it was getting rid of the graduation, high school graduation test, Senate Bill 2, expansion of dual enrollment, and all the little other tools that you have given to the students in order to be successful outside of just being in the high school classroom setting. So on that side, I will say thank you to all of you, because you all have been integral in helping to decrease that.
And what do you see as the biggest hurdle if we were to raise the age from 16 to 17?
Probably resources, both financial and in the classroom for teachers, and even for counseling. I mean, we have the ratio right now for counselors is one counselor to every 408 students is what the current ratio is right now.
Senator Alberts.
In part of our information gathering, I think what would be helpful is to have the number of what's the average per school that drop out between 16 and 17 each year. Because right now, we don't know whether that's 2 kids or that's 200 kids, right? And obviously the size of that will have the impact in the school, because it's the teacher ratio to the students, it's the counselors, it's the everything, all the services that are already there. So having that basic math in place, I think, is going to help us make a good educated decision.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Alberts. All right, any other questions from the committee? All right, thank you for being here, and
No
we'll be calling on you again going forward. I promise you that.
Absolutely.
Because
Anything that we can
I would
do to
like
help.
this to be a team effort, and I mean that's something that's very important to me. I'm one of those. I used to tell people, I said, made me a good probation officer is I was good at bringing opposing sides to the 50-yard line, and so so hopefully that's kind of that's where we find the good in doing this. So thank you for being here, and thank you. We had also some that signed up to speak to this. Mr. Fleming, if you'd like to come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Joe Fleming. I represent the Georgia Association of Educators, the oldest educator organization in the state. We unequivocally support SB 3 and think that the time is now to move forward on it. And I'm delighted by the support of the members of this committee for that concept. I don't view it, and we don't view it, as an either-or proposition between additional services needed by students and schools versus expanding the age to 17. 16 is way too young to drop out, and I think you firsthand are familiar with some of the consequences of that. That kind of stability in young children's lives can make a difference for them forever. We've touched a little bit on wraparound services. You've mentioned it. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Senator Davenport had a bill to deal with wraparound services that did pass the Senate. Unfortunately, it didn't move forward in the House committee at that time. But it's a good example of a bill that we ought to be also concerned with and working forward. But we support the raise to 17. Delighted that Senator Albers has introduced that concept in the past, and we will work as hard as we can with you to see the enactment of this session.
And do you have the specific data that you have access to from different regions around the state that you could help us with?
It would be likely inferior to what the department has.
Okay.
And like Senator Albers and you, I look forward to seeing the number of students that would be involved, the potential costs. I understand in the past the bill may have not moved forward out of concerns about cost. Our general belief is exactly what Senator Albers said. This is an investment that in the long term will save millions and millions of dollars in Georgia. And the small amount that we spend now to continue having kids in class until at least 17 is an expenditure well worth it. And it's something we should not shy away. And again, I don't want to be enforced into, and I don't think we have to, choose between extending it to 17 or additional services that we also feel are necessary, particularly as they are aggravated by the COVID situation.
I think COVID's taught us a lot.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things it's taught us is that we can do a lot of things that we didn't think were possible that we could do.
That's right. Exactly.
And so to know that we can, that should expand our own horizons, to what can be accomplished, within education and other areas around the state. I will
also look back at our files and see if there's any analysis that's been done. It probably is not current and up to date, but perhaps it can be the footing for additional information to request from the department.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other questions? Well, thank you for being
Yes,
here,
sir.
and thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Grace Kim. Please state your name and who you're with.
Good morning. My name is Grace Kim. I'm with the Georgia School Boards Association. The Georgia School Board Association supports SB 3. GSBA's membership believes it should be the public policy of the state to require compulsory education for children up to 18 years of age, actually. Georgia is in the minority of states that permit students to drop out at age 16. Currently, 16 states permit children to leave school at age 16. 34 states require students to stay in from 17, 18, or 19 years of age. Allowing 16-year-olds to make the life-altering decision to leave school without a degree sends students the wrong message. Students do not understand the consequences of going through life with the minimum of without the minimum of a high school education will have on them. GSB understands that student engagement must start before children get on the path to dropping out early, and the association looks forward to working with you on finding ways to setting students on a path to success.
Well, thank you for being here. And do you have any of the answers to some of the questions that we've asked so far?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, thank you again for being here, and thank you for your input. And just hope you'll stay at the table with us as we go forward. Any questions from the committee? All right. Well, thank you, ma'am, for being here.
Thank you.
Any others that didn't possibly sign up that would like to speak? Seeing none. Any other comments or questions from the committee?
I have one comment.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm waiting for you to get me to the 50-yard line. I'm not there yet. I just feel that students need to stay in school as long as they can and learn as much as they can. I just support the raising the age. We have students now who say, I'm waiting till I get 16 so I can drop out of school. That's not what we want. We want to make sure that children have opportunities. I had the opportunity to go to college. I want that experience for every child. I just think that we your life would be better. It would be enriched if you experience a college degree. In order to get that, I think you need to stay in school. And then there are some students that will not go to college, but they can get go to a technical college, a technical school, and get a trade and do something. But they need to stay in school. And I understand the pipeline to prison. If students are not in school, they're out of minds. They just go out and get in trouble. I know other factors contribute to that. There are other things, home life is a whole lot to contribute to that. But I just feel that they will be better off if they're in school. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm waiting for you to get me to the 50-yard line.
Well,
I
think you're already there, because I think
those wraparound services. I think we need wraparound services. I push for that, but I just don't feel that it's one or the other. I think we need both, and I think the state of Georgia, we have enough money in this country to do anything. I just see that. I don't have it, but most Americans have it. So I just think that. We need to push for that. I think the Department of Education needs to push that. And so I'm encouraging them to push that, Ms. Pritchett.
Well, as I said, and you may have arrived afterwards, but one of the things I plan to do is, with those of us on the committee, we have Senator Tippins from Marietta, Senator Albers from Roswell, Senator Davenport from Jonesboro, and Senator Jackson from Savannah. I'd like to maybe have committee meetings in some of those in our districts on the committee, and I think because we get a good sampling, I think, from those of us on this committee, from both small, medium, and large, and as going forward to have committee meetings in specific districts, and have the local school board and local folks come and talk to us about how this would impact if SB3 went forward.
Okay.
So I'd like to get that. I just want to hopefully make sure that we're hearing all the voices, both small, medium, and large communities across the state. Thank you. Senator Albers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one thing I just wanted to mention before we ended today was, at age 16, you can't buy an alcoholic drink. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes or chewing tobacco or vape. You cannot vote at age 16. You cannot enlist in the military at age 16. In fact, you cannot go see a rated R movie at age 16. You can't get a full adult driver's license at the age of 16. And yet we allow a kid to do the one thing that will irreparably harm them for the rest of their life, which is drop out of school. Now, we've got some efforts on the House side of them wanting to raise the age from 17 to 18 for how we treat offenders in prison versus youth detention. We can't begin to have that conversation until we solve this one, because one is the absolute, as Senator Davenport said, pipeline to the other. And we can do better than this in the long run. I know it. First off, it's the right thing to do. But secondarily, we're going to save the state money, and it's going to help our state continue to thrive. We're the #1 place to do business for 8 years. It's a track record that nobody has ever done in the history of the United States of America. Doing things like this will keep us there. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Albers. All right. Any other questions or any comments? Well, I just want to thank you all for being here today. I said that today is our first meeting, and I wanted to kind of bring everybody back together and just kind of put this out there as a refresher for everybody to start getting refreshed back into where we were back during the session on SB3 and moving forward. Like I said, I plan to have another committee meeting coming up very soon, sooner rather than later, and hopefully in one of our districts. And that way we'll get a local sampling of what folks there are saying and what they think about the potential of increasing that age. But again, I thank you all for being here. Thank you for the committee members for coming, and we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.